All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here and for working on the Zoom. So without further ado, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I believe we should call the roll. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep, so if we could call the roll.
Curtis,
Here.
May,
Here.
Irvin,
Here.
Rowley,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
Jordan, Williams,
Here.
Tassone, Cody,
Here.
Abbott Keenan, Kuhn,
Here.
Chase,
Here.
Holmquist, McBride, Chairman Knapp,
Here.
Bush, Kinney, six members present, one absent.
Very good, thank you. First up is A, reading of the minutes of the proceedings of the previous committee unless there's a motion to waive.
Move. Brian May.
B, May, first on the waiver. Is there a second?
Yes, Linda Irvin, second.
Mrs. Irvin, second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Now Debbie all right, so we'll do it this way and then on the others we'll call a roll. B, approval of the minutes of the proceedings of the previous committee meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved. B. May.
B, May first,
Linda Irvin, second.
Linda Irvin, second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. C, presentation of resolutions and local laws. First up, county clerk, mortgage tax apportionment. Do I have a speaker for that? Sorry.
Chairman, I can take that.
Yes.
You have in your packet from the county clerk's office the collections and distributions for the mortgage tax for the period of October 2019 through March of 2020. The amount collected is $4.54 million. This is up 3% from the previous period, April of 2019 through October. It's up 23% from the same period last year.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Questions? Comments? Well, thank you. The town of Cicero will be excited as always. Appreciate that. Any comments? If no, is there a motion?
Linda Irvin, move.
Mrs. Irvin is the first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Ryan, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Curtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
six ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. Then on to 2A, emergency management, accepting a donation from the Lions Club International Foundation for first responders during the COVID-19 crisis, $7,500 coming to us. Is there someone here to speak to that, or I can?
Chairman, I can hop in.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, this was coordinated through obviously Pompey, or the Lions Club International, but specifically through the Pompey Lions Club locally. The foundation put up $100,000 for New York State in general. And so our portion of that was $7,500. This was specifically used to buy meals for first responders and healthcare workers. So obviously many thanks to the Lions Club International and Pompey Lions Club in particular.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments about this item from anyone? All right, then, is there a motion to accept money?
Linda Irvin move.
Mrs. Irvin is the first. Is there a second?
B. May, second.
B. May, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Great, thank you. On to 3A then. Onondaga Community College. Adoption of the annual budget for OCC for fiscal year September 1, 2020 to August 31st, 2021. Authorizing the county executive to enter into contracts with other governmental agencies, other governmental units, in which appropriations and revenues are approved by the adoption of the 2021 budget. Is there a speaker on to talk to that?
Mark Manning is here from Onondaga Community College. I don't know if anyone had any further questions. I know we were at the Joint Ways and Means Committee 2 weeks ago. Dr. Crable gave the presentation. We responded to some questions. So at this point, if there were any additional questions, I would be happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning.
Morning.
I don't have a question, just have a comment. I appreciate OCC and everything that they do there. Appreciate the budget that was put forward in a difficult time. And based on the projections and the numbers, I'm very hopeful that, that it's a conservative, I believe it's a conservative budget. I'm very hopeful that OCC will have more students coming to them for this year because of the COVID. I think it's very reasonable to consider that. And so hopefully that happens and it's a real benefit to OCC this year. So thanks for everything the OCC's done.
Thank you. And we certainly appreciate the support that the county has given us over the years in terms of both the operating dollars towards our budget as well as the capital. We've got an awesome facility and it's thanks to you guys. I also want to mention Sue Tormey is on the call, but she has no audio or video. So she is here and extends her gratitude as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Sue. Hello. We miss seeing your smiling face. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Yes, sir. Anything? All right, then. Is there a motion to approve?
Linda
So
Irvin
moved.
move.
B. May.
I'll take B. May first, and then Linda Irvin is a second. And then could we call the roll, please?
Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Great. Thank you, and have a great year, OCC.
Thank you very much.
Wish you well. On to 4A then, Syracuse Onondaga County Planning Agency, SOCPA. Going to 4A, approving the inclusion of viable agricultural land with certified agricultural districts pursuant to section 303-B of the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law. I do believe I have someone to talk to that on 4A, please. Good morning.
This is Dan Kwasnowski from SACPA here. I don't know if Brian Reeds is on the phone yet or not.
Are you there, Mr. Reeves?
Maybe not. He might be out in the field.
Okay.
Um,
Brian May is here as well. So
okay, great. So there's two ag district items. The first one here is the regular annual ads.
That shows engagement and education. This has a lot of downstream effects that would be beneficial.
Everybody else hear that?
What's that? No, I don't hear. I hear it, but I only. That's not us, Dan.
Okay.
Go
Sounds
ahead.
better than me. So we have 5 ads, 2 from District 1 and 3 from District 3, and they're pretty straightforward. They're all approved by the Ag Environmental Protection Board. So the annual ads are usually pretty straightforward. And then the next item is the 8-year review for Ag District 2 that we can talk about in a minute.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about 4A for a minute. As you see, most of us, we've already looked at it. This is for the town of Onondaga. 2 there, 1 in Camillus, 2 in Elbridge. And yeah, sorry, these are landowner requests for ag land within the ag district. Are there any questions, any comments about 4A? Anything at all?
Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. May.
B. May. Just a comment, really. One, I think everyone on the legislature should know the outstanding work that SACPA does to support the Ag and Farmland Protection Committee in this process. It's an important process. Agriculture is important to our community, and anything we can do to get viable land in the Ag district is a positive for a very important industry in this community. I also want to say that and just sort of vouch for the committees itself and its diligence toward making these recommendations to the legislature. They do outstanding work. They're very thorough. They're very representative of those who need to weigh in on these decisions. And again, it's a great process, and I wholeheartedly recommend approval of both A and B that will be taken up today. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader May. Other questions, other comments?
Chairman, Dave Knapp.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Just to echo what Leader May just said, also want to include in there our very own Jamie McNamara and the rest of the staff do a boatload of work as well, working with SACPA on this. There's thousands of letters to be mailed out. As Leader May can attest, these meetings sometimes go for several hours, and Jamie's taking the minutes on those and does a great job. So I just wanted to highlight the staff's efforts in support of this operation too.
Shame on me for not mentioning that. Jamie does outstanding work for this committee.
Thank you.
Well, kudos to you, Jamie. Good. More on 4A. All right, then, is there a motion for 4A?
So moved.
B. May on the first. Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, Mr. Williams, a second. Can we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
yes,
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Great, thank you. So 4B, renewing with modification agricultural district number 2 in the towns of Manlius, Skaneateles, and Spafford. Now, Dan's going to come back, and on this one, there's been some questions Dan can, if you could just talk on that. I don't think we're going to take a vote today. Dan will explain it to you, but that's what I think we should do. We can talk to the clerk about it, but go ahead.
Okay, so this is the 8-year review. So this is where we look at both adding properties and also removing. And this is, the removal is all, it's all led by the landowner themselves. We don't suggest removals. We don't recommend, we don't ask anybody to be removed. We send out a survey and people fill it out and they decide whether or not they want to still be in or not. Now, all the removals are people that have a residential property that's not going to be part of a farm, and they, for whatever reason, they've decided they don't want to be in the ag district anymore, which is totally fine. And then we have ads, and all the ads are pretty straightforward. There's only one that we had any discussion on, and I'll talk about a letter that we received from the town of Marcellus here in a second. But for the most part, except for that one property, which is at the top there in Marcellus, the only property in Marcellus being considered to be added, they're all part of the farm. They're all, typical ag district. They're not large, but they're not, they're all within the realm of ag operation, and they all make sense. The one in question, we did have a discussion about it with the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. It's a 48-acre woodlot. It's not associated with a farm. It's not a farming operation. It's not a timber harvesting operation, although they do want to harvest timber this year. It is adjacent to land in the ag district, and we included that as an addition because it is adjacent to active farmland and it is adjacent to the ag district. And in the future, what could happen is the neighboring farm properties could purchase that as a support property, support land, or just as a buffer to more developed areas or natural resources. And so that makes sense, and that's kind of a regular thing that the Ag and Farmland Protection Board considers. Now, we've received just yesterday, I talked to the town called me because we send out a notice to the towns when we get to this stage. And sometimes you get something back, right? So I received a letter from John Hauser, and I know it was in coordination with the town supervisor and their attorney. And they wrote a very similar letter back in 2018, and they have kind of ongoing drainage and runoff issues in the town. And I can speak to that because I live in the village and I live on the hillside, and these are real issues, and they're working through them. They've identified them in their hazard mitigation plan locally, which is also included in our coordinated countywide plan. They're working with soil and water. They're working with the farmers. They're definitely taking the proactive, collaborative steps to kind of see how they can address some of these overall drainage issues. We have very steep slopes, and we're in a valley, and we have wonderful farmland around. This property, this not being a typical ag property, they sent a letter and they said, listen, we just have continuing concerns about drainage and runoff. We'd hate to see this woodland converted to crop fields, especially since it does have steep slopes. It's adjacent to 9 Mile Creek, which obviously is a major tributary to Onondaga Lake. And it really, Tim, looking at the letter now, it's really more of a general concern about, does this tie the town's hands in the future? Does it affect how they can manage in the watershed or protect water bodies and protect residential properties? So it's, obviously I want to bring that to you and let you know that letter was written. The Ag and Farmland Protection Board, we discussed just even the size of the property. It's not big enough to qualify for tax exemptions as a forestry property. It's not associated with a farm, so they really don't get much of the benefits for being in the ag district. But on the other hand, there's a lot of properties like that in the ag district. So, if this were to go forward, I don't think the town's going to be upset. I don't think it will tie their hands in the future. And on the other hand, the landowner won't receive any of the full benefits of being in the ag district because they're not associated with a farm. So they're not even considered a timber operation. So I don't, to Chairman Burse's point, I don't know if you really need to hold up, the process for this one parcel. I think the town will be okay if it moves forward. But I just wanted to bring to your attention that they do have those concerns. They did write a similar letter back in 2018. and they are working towards resolving these issues cooperatively with landowners in the future. So,
All right, thank you, Dan.
mhm.
Other questions, other comments?
Chairman Brian May.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. May.
And I apologize to the committee. This is a new development for certainly all of us. But I do have to ask some specific questions or at least comment on it. I would be inclined to move forward with this. The work has been done, as Dan said. It qualifies. It is the choice of the landowner. Some of you may recall a few years ago, the town of Elbridge tried to sort of unilaterally remove 300 parcels from the ag district, and the Ag and Farmland Protection Board made the determination that it was not really their purview or right to do so. With respect to the land in Marcellus, it's my humble opinion that this drainage concern could or would apply to virtually any piece of property in the town, and the town would have to, or the village would have to, deal with the landowner under any circumstances. So this kind of inalienable right that the landowner has to enter the ag district should really have nothing to do with some of these concerns. It's still incumbent upon the town to work with the landowner to achieve mutual goals in an amicable way. So I don't see how this would get in the way or how it could or should stop us. But again, I'm not an attorney, and if law says it's okay for us to take a vote today, I'd recommend we do that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Leader May. Other questions, other comments? Anyone? All right, thank you. Then do I have a motion?
I'll move it. B. May.
Motion to approve B. May's first. Is there a second? Is there a second for 4B?
I'll second.
Mr. Rowley, thank you. Second, could we call the roll, please?
Legislator Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
yes,
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
All right, thank you. Moving on to 4C, acceptance of funds from Empire State Development for the preparation of an update of the Onondaga County Comprehensive Plan and authorizing the county executive to enter into contracts to implement this resolution. Do we have a speaker here for that, or I can take it?
It's me again, Dan Kwasnowski, Director of SACPA.
Yes.
So this was a grant that we wrote last year successfully, and we had to work out a couple of details with the incentive proposals, what they call it, because this is a economic development grant, just like a business would get, even though it's for strategic planning. But what we've received from the state is that if you accept the proposal here, is $100,000 in cash from the state. There is a 10% match requirement, so we'll have to put $10,000 towards it for a total contract of $110,000, and then my agency will provide at least $90,000 in in-kind services, both through planning services and also GIS. So this is to create our updated countywide plan, which is required by the charter and is long overdue, as you all know. And we're very fortunate that we were able to receive this money to do this study, because I think it'll make a much better plan. And especially these days, I'm always a large proponent of public participation and getting people involved. And these days it's harder than ever. So I don't know, hopefully by the time this goes into contract and we start the work, we'll be able to get out there and actually meet face to face with people in all the 35 towns and villages and the city. But that is the grant that we received, and we'd like to move forward with it.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Mhm.
Sounds exciting. It sounds very good. Are there
Thanks.
any questions or any comments on 4C?
Chairman Burtis?
Yes, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, just a question for Dan. So how, and I agree, I also think public participation is a great thing, and I agree it is long overdue. How specifically, what is the plan to go out in the surrounding, well, in the towns and looks like probably the villages too? Is that, obviously that will be developed going forward, but do you have an idea how that might, what that might look like, or like meetings or town by town, or what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, for a lot of different reasons, you know, it's a countywide plan, and I really want it. You know, you have to balance that desire of getting buy-in and identity from all the different communities. So finding those common interests, and then, so as far as the plan is concerned, I'd like to fly as high as we need to kind of get everybody's buy-in and say, yeah, this is the direction we need to go in. You know, as much as we possibly can. As far as how do you communicate that vision, how do you communicate that plan to each local community? One of the things that we're working on this summer, and actually we've been working on for a while now, we're really waiting for the census data to come in. We're going to do a profile of each community in the county. So they're going to have their own, it's kind of like the hazard mitigation plan had. They had, each town and village had their own plan. Even, you know, the city had their own plan that was incorporated in that plan. So we're going to have, it won't be a full plan, but it'll be just a profile of what that community is, what their center is, what their town center is, what their villages are, what it means to them, what industries they have, how many people live there, basic demographic information, so that each community kind of has their own little piece. And that is kind of one of the foundational pieces that we're going to put together. But to answer your question of how we're going to get out, I like, you know, open house style meetings. Obviously, you have to create some publications along the way, and really kind of letting people come to you in a more casual format, have conversations with legislators that are there, with town supervisors, town council people, planning board members, and kind of letting them have a visual of how their community fits in with the overall countywide plan. How we do that in the future, hopefully we'll be able to use the same traditional methods of open houses and things like that, but we're probably going to have to rely on our new website that should be done this fall. And really, I think a virtual approach is going to play very strongly in this. And I think a consultant is going to be key in that, and being able to do that.
Yeah, I definitely think that a lot of towns and villages have done updated comprehensive plans. I know that they've put a lot of work into them, and I'm hopeful, right? I'm optimistic that that the towns and the villages and the county, we all can kind of work together and get a really good plan with input from everybody. So wish you luck. So great, it's good.
Are there others, questions or comments?
Chairman, D Knapp here.
Yes.
Since we're going to be, I kind of like B May, so yeah, maybe D Knapp works.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, whatever.
Anyway, you know, the good news about this is when Dan first came on board, you know, him and his team went on a real nice road show around the entire county. They spoke with every town supervisor and planning folks, as well as the mayor, village mayors and their teams. And so, you know, the groundwork is in place as far as, you know, everybody knows each other. You know, this is not a hostile we versus they thing. I mean, I think Dan really laid out a nice collaborative type impression with everyone. And, you know, I think this is going to be very positive. And like I said, those lines of communication are already open. So they'll make it that much easier to implement as we go forward.
Great. Thank you. Other comments, other questions for 4C? If there's none, could I have a motion to approve 4C?
Linda Irvin, I move it.
Mrs. Irvin is first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is that Mr. Ryan? I'm sorry.
That was I. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, sorry. Mr. Ryan, second. Could we call the roll?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Great, thank you. Next is 5A, Standard Workday and Reporting Resolution. We have 2 to report. Everybody sees it there. Is there any conversation about that? Any?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
Debbie.
can address that. So this is the next round, and there will be a couple tweaks to this one before session. I'm waiting on a little bit more data to come in, but it looks like there might be 1 or 2 more names added.
Okay,
Standard routine that we have to provide to the state.
yeah, and that shouldn't be a problem, right? So, okay, very good. I don't think there'd be any questions or comments about that. Is there a motion to approve 5A?
Move it.
Mr. Ryan is first. Is there a second?
Linda Irvin, second.
Linda Irvin, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes?
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Thank you. 5B then, in memoriam for Jerry Mingalelli, former legislator that passed away. I believe Mr. Chairman has something to say.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, this is a memoriam that we do, obviously for past legislators. Unfortunately, Mr. Mingalelli passed away not long ago. He really had actually quite a resume. He was a legislator for 18 years from 1976 to 93, and he served as majority leader in his last term in 82 and 83, or no, and not in his last term, but majority leader from 82 to 83. He was a graduate of North Syracuse High School, attended Syracuse University and Syracuse University Law School. A couple of what he considered his major accomplishments, and both of them are pretty good accomplishments. He helped achieve the landmark status for the War Memorial. And then certainly very important, he was instituting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday as a county holiday. Interestingly, he was also a pretty good athlete, played football and baseball at North Syracuse. And at Syracuse University on the baseball team, he batted .400. So not too bad there. And he was the Syracuse YMCA handball champion for many years in the 70s and 80s. So leaves behind a couple kids and grandkids, and it'll be nice. We'll do this at session as we always do. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments about that? If none, is there a motion to approve 5B?
I'll move.
Yes, Mr. Rowley is the first. Is there a second?
Linda Irvin, second.
Mrs. Irvin, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes?
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Great, thank you. On to 6A then, Board of Elections. Making a transfer from supplies and materials to professional services in the amount of $10,300. This is due to cost of a contract increase with NTS. This is budget neutral. I don't know if we have speakers for this or not.
Yes, I'm here.
I'm here too.
I don't know if Dustin's on.
I'm here.
Yes, we wanted to transfer the $10,000
Yeah.
to cover the rest of the cost of it.
It's being transferred from supplies and materials. The reason we have this amount in supplies and materials is because our mail check cards, once the NTS raised their contract prices for the registration part of the software, that's the contract that we're trying to pay off. So when that happened, we took a lower price on the mail check cards, which is with the same vendor. And so, but it's paid out of a different account. It's out of supplies and materials. So that $10,000 will cover the contract increase that was due, that came out after the budget was prepared last year, due to the use of electronic poll books and other things that were done on the legislative level.
All right, great. Thank you. Are there questions, comments, 6A?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Rowley.
so looks like the contract is increasing from 79,000 to 90,000. Well, roughly, will this be the contract amount going forward for the next couple of years?
Yes, it
Yes,
will be for the
it will.
next 3 years. We did ask and got approval into the contract for a 30-day out. One of the problems that we have with this particular vendor, well, they're a good vendor, but one of the problems that we have is that they're one of the only vendors that's authorized to do registration in the state of New York. There has been rumor of new vendors coming onto the scene that might be significantly more cost effective. They haven't been approved by the state. The COVID problem, prevented a few of them from getting approved. So we asked for and got a 30-day out in there in case we want to get out of this contract in the middle of it if we find a better vendor to handle the registration software.
And last question, how long have we been with NTS?
We've been with NTS since 2008. I'm sorry, 2006.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions, comments?
Chairman, just a quick one.
Yes, sir.
So is this a 3-year package we're signing right now?
Yes.
Yep.
And is there an escalator in there, or is this going to be the price for the next 3 years? Do we know?
No, this will be the price for the next.
This will be the
3
price
years.
for the next year.
Thank you.
Sorry for us over talking each other. We're in separate offices trying to make
I know. I can't
social
hear.
distancing happen.
All right. Other questions, other comments? All right. Very well. Is there a motion to approve?
Linda Irvin, move.
Mrs. Irvin is first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Ryan, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Great. Thank you. On to 7.
I can just staple.
7A, a local law amending Article 6 of the Onondaga County Charter with respect to the 2021 county budget cycle. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Burtis. Good morning, everybody. 7A in front of you, as Chairman Burtis noted, is a local law looking to amend the charter and the code with respect to the 2021 county budget cycle. Obviously with the pandemic in play and the the fact that our largest revenue and sales tax is, going to be very volatile throughout the remainder of this year, as well as some of our major expenditure accounts. The thought is to push this cycle out almost 2 months to allow for, more actual data and information to transpire to allow us to make some better and more informed decisions, both for the current year estimates and then obviously use those to build the 2021 budget. So really for me, it's a practical change to allow, at the end of the day, a better spending plan for next year. So the resolution's a couple pages. I could summarize it real quick. It's changing various dates that are required in the budget cycle process. So to go through some of the major changes, currently the executive has to present the budget by the 15th of September. This local law would amend that and change it for 2021 to November 4th. And then with a 15-day review, actually it's a 16-day review, but one of the days is Veterans Day. So the 15-day review, the Ways and Means report would be filed November 20th. Public hearing notice on November 26th. The public hearing on December 1st. Then the budget would be adopted by the full legislature on December 3rd. So those are the main changes. Like I said, it in essence picks up the budget process and pushes it, not quite 2 months, but close to 2 months later in the year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Great. Any questions, any comments? 7A.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so, this is something we've been talking about for a little while since this, the pandemic situation presented itself. Without this, we would literally be starting the budget process in a week. And so obviously, it'd be very, very difficult to put together an intelligent budget based on what the information we have right now, not knowing as we open up how things are going to recover. So this was a product of a lot of give and take back and forth from the legislature and the executives team led by Steve Morgan, and certainly a collaborative effort thanks to Darcy, who did a lot of work on this, as well as Leader May and myself. And I think we have a good product. This is for 1 year. And I think what we do is we get it done this year. After it's done, we assess. And if it's something we liked and it worked out well, we can keep it. If it's not, we can go back to the way it was, or we could do something in between the old system and this one that we're talking about today. So it keeps our options open, but I think especially for this year, given everything that's going on, that this is a prudent step for us.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I would just comment to say, yes, I agree. I like it very much. I think it makes just a ton of sense. And as already been said, we don't know where our sales tax received is going to end up. We don't know where the feds or the state are, where they're all going to come. And so I think it's a very smart, prudent thing to do. Are there others who'd like to comment? No? All right then. Is there a motion for 7A?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move it.
Yes, Mr. Rowley's first. Is there a second?
Linda Irvin, second.
Mrs. Irvin, second. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
6 ayes, none opposed.
Very good, thank you. On to 7B then. Amending an old resolution from 1967 and so that we can impose a tax on residential energy.
All right, thank you. 7B, as Chairman Burtis noted, is a resolution looking to amend a 1967 resolution regarding the imposition of sales tax on residential energy. That resolution was actually amended and allowed for a phase out of the sales tax charge on residential energy as of 1982. So now from 1982 to present, residential energy purchases have been exempt from sales tax from the county since 1982. So, you know, what this is, you know, and the way we're viewing this is a tool in the toolbox to allow us to respond again to obviously what's going to be a significant yet unknown increase in our our largest revenue source, which is sales tax. So obviously we've been working fairly hard over here trying to forecast and project, you know, what that ensuing gaps potentially is going to be, how it's going to impact the county. And one of the tools we identified was the ability to remove the exemption on residential energy purchases. Now there's almost 20 counties in the state that currently charge and levy this sales tax on residential energy. Some of our neighbors, Cortland County, Cayuga County, some others across the state, Suffolk, Tompkins, Westchester, New York City. So there's a sprinkling of counties out there that currently charge sales tax on these purchases. But the one pager that's in your packet, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. You can see the charts up top. What I was attempting to do here was to give the committee an idea of, you know, what this would mean to the average household. So we work with National Grid and also National Fuel Gas Distribution Corporation, you know, to estimate, you know, what the average energy bill in a household in this region is. You know, so we came to about $150 or so. Now the sales tax is on the delivery and the commodity, not any additional charges and fees above the commodity and the delivery charge. So with that, we're estimating about a monthly energy bill about $150 on average for an annual energy bill of about $1,800 a year, which would result in, if this were to be approved, $6 a month, $72 a year in sales tax generated. Also, what I tried to do from a global perspective to give the committee an idea of the benefit to the county from a revenue perspective, what we did is down below the last chart on that page is for the counties that do charge this, we were able to gather the data of their taxable sales for the most recent period that was available. And you can see the numbers there. We categorized this and looked at it 4 different ways. So we have average of upstate counties, the average of surrounding counties, the average of upstate counties with populations greater than 100,000, and then just a straight analysis for Erie County. So what we did is we were able to get their populations and then get a per capita sales amount for each of those scenarios, and then use that to project potentially what our county's gross collections and then what the ensuing county share of those collections would be. So you could see it ranges anywhere from $9 million to $13 million on an annual basis in additional sales tax collections for the county. And obviously this, the city would benefit as well as a result of this for the non-county share. So, the no home rule is required here. It already exists. That's why we can go right to a resolution to levy this tax and remove this exemption locally. From a projection standpoint, we've done a number of things to date to address, again, what we don't fully know to be the gap that's going to ensue related to the lag in sales tax collections. We've cut and reduced spending to the tune of about almost $25 million already in terms of austerity, locking up money in various non-salary accounts, contract reductions, a hiring freeze, our temporary staff reductions, cash for capital and DOT. So we've done a number of things to rein in spending, to control spending, to help aid with what we know is going to be a revenue shortfall here this year. So we're looking to this in addition to, there's some stimulus money that's already been passed related to enhanced Medicaid funding that's estimated at about $5 million. So we believe that that'll be coming to us. So that'll help fill that hole as well. And then we're looking to this additional sales tax revenue to assist on that front as well. Other items that are at play, obviously, that we'll continue to monitor and determine as we get closer to the end of the year. There's obviously a lot of talk at the federal level of another stimulus bill, and specifically aimed at states and localities. Obviously, that's huge for New York. One of the major pressures, aside from the reduction in sales tax collections, is the potential reduction in state aid that the state of New York has made clear that if there's no federal help, there's going to be significant cuts to not only school aid, but to local aid, to counties, to cities, to towns, to villages. We have an estimate, of almost $35 million of reduced state aid for 2020 if the state doesn't get some help from the feds. These are numbers that have flowed from NISAC. They have estimates out there anywhere up to $60 million that we potentially could be cut by the state as a result of their own fiscal pressures. The state budget that was passed gives the governor quite a bit of control to rein in and reduce aid to locals if they don't meet their own revenue marks, which the first measurement period was the month of April. I believe they're waiting to see what happens with this next stimulus bill before they potentially enact these cuts. But that's, between the potential state aid reduction and depending on where we end with sales tax, you could be looking at close to $100 million in lost revenue between state aid and sales tax that we're going to have to address this year. This potential increased sales tax certainly will be a welcome addition to the other tools in the toolbox that we're going to be dipping into to address the shortfall this year. So with that, I'll take questions, Chairman.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to start. And I'd start by saying, I appreciate the effort to enhance our revenues. I appreciate that we can do something now. We don't have to go back to the state. I am concerned about the hole in the revenue. I was concerned about it at the very start. I was concerned about the health of the community. I was concerned about how well we were doing enrolling. And now that we were going to, all levels, that we were going to slow, I didn't realize we were going to stop. So real concern, and frankly, it really did affect me a lot in a very negative way. We're all doing so well, and frankly, I don't like to raise tax. It's not who I am, it's not something I take lightly. But I find myself in a position to do something that I don't like, and to approve this resolution, to vote for it, because today's the day. These are tough days, and we need to do what we can to fill the hole, which is our revenue loss. And as I said before in a different resolution a little while ago, I feel like we're in a tunnel and it's dark. If we could just know where we were, if we could just see a light somewhere, we could make better decisions possibly than some of the hard ones that we're making. But there is no light at the tunnel. We just don't know where we are. I think this is a prudent thing to do based on my old analogy of that. I think we need to do everything that we can for fear that this could go on for some period of time, and appreciate everything that we're doing here as far as austerity measures and really trying to be careful. I know that some will talk about using cash, using savings and that type of thing. And while I appreciate that, I think this is a good first move, and hopefully it will not affect our residents in too much of a dramatic way. So with that, I'll stop. I know there's other questions or comments we'd like to be made.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Rowley, go ahead.
So, Steve, just to be clear, there's no sunset clause in this resolution. This will be a permanent change to sales tax.
Correct.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple questions on this projection that we were provided by Chairman Knapp.
Sure.
So Steve, starting on the first line, the first quarter projection of $12 million surplus, you're pretty, I guess it's just a starting point, really. 'Cause it's,
yeah.
This year is out the window, really.
Yeah, what we did, Jim, is we went through the normal process that you're fully aware of, and
right.
We did, we looked at the major revenue and expenditure items. We didn't necessarily dig into supply accounts.
Sure.
We did, especially with the state we're in here, with staffing. But it's still it's a solid projection. So we took all of the austerity into account. Obviously, we put into place, and then we dove into the major revenue and expenditure categories, and that's our starting point. Is that surplus of 12.4. So there's obviously other pressures within the budget. Aside from, the obvious ones. So, there's a few program accounts we're struggling with. And obviously when you cut expenses, you don't get 100% benefit out of that, because we do get a lot of reimbursement from various areas.
Right.
So that 12.4 is a good way to look at it, Jim, is that's kind of the starting point.
Right.
And what that is that's assuming sales tax at budget.
Okay.
Which will require, if you look at the top, the top of that information, will require a 3.6% growth in sales tax. So that's kind of our baseline, is how I looked at it. And then what we did is we said, okay, for different sales tax collection scenarios, this is what that impact would be, at least from the sales tax perspective, on the overall projection. And then, we factored in an estimated state aid reduction. And then you could see some of the items that we're counting on to help close that gap. One being the $5 million I spoke about regarding the federal stimulus. Obviously, we're proposing, and hopefully the legislature will agree on this energy sales tax. And then I spoke a little bit about other items. One being the, hopefully another federal stimulus package aimed at locals and states. Obviously we have fund balance, and obviously, that may be one of the tools we have to use. And then the one thing I failed to mention is the retirement incentive. So, we're tracking that obviously, and those responses are due by the end of this week. And then once those are submitted, we'll have an idea of the folks that are intending to take that incentive. And then, we're in the process of doing the work now, but it'll ramp up once we know who's going, how many of those positions need to be filled. And then we can then say, okay, with that, this is how much it's potentially going to save us this year, and then on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
So those are other items that don't have a dollar figure on them yet, but they're sitting on the bench waiting to be employed when they need to be employed.
Understood. So just to be clear, the expenditure reduction measures are not part of the baseline.
They are.
They are.
They are. So that 12.4 million of the surplus includes all of the austerity.
All those austerity measures. Okay. And then the state aid reduction, I keep hearing that from the governor that it's 20%, 20%, 20%, but you've estimated 35%.
Yeah. So the
mentioned NISAC. I'm just wondering where you got that number.
Yeah, NISAC put out a report, and they estimated on a low and a high end. They went from I think 10% all the way up to 50% reduction in state aid. So what I did is I took halfway. I went halfway and estimated our reduction about the halfway point between what their estimates were. And that's the number that I at halfway at 35% is what it is the 35 million.
Okay. And then this federal stimulus, the 5 million that you listed, is that in the bank? Was that part of the CARES Act?
That was part of one of the original stimulus packages they passed.
Okay.
It was the first or second one. I think it might have even been the first one. And what it did is it enhanced the FMAP rate for Medicaid.
Okay.
So I think it bumped it up 6% to 6.2%. And the estimated value that we got from NISAC in the state was 5 million. It was originally valued more than that, but that was an annual amount. And this enhanced FMAP only exists while the national federal emergency is declared. So this is 6 months worth of enhanced federal stimulus money in the Medicaid program. So if he were to end that federal emergency earlier, that amount would reduce. If he extends it, it potentially could increase.
Okay. Do you know, sitting here today, what our excess over 10% fund balance amount is, or what would you guess?
Yeah, so the CAFR is just about done.
Okay.
For 19. So I haven't really reported this out, and I know the controller hasn't obviously reported out on the CAFR, but we ended in the general fund almost $7 million to the good.
Okay.
So when you take that into consideration, we got about $11 million over the 10% goal.
Okay.
So we got about $79 million in fund balance at the end of 2019 in the general fund.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions right now, Mr. Chairman. I might have a few more as things go on here, but I'll comment before we take a vote.
Very good. Is there someone else?
Chairman, I'll hop in.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, kind of like Chairman Burgess said, this isn't on the top of the list of what anybody wants to do. But we're in some difficult times, obviously. Just a few comments on Steve's numbers there. The FMAP federal dollars there on Medicaid. There's a fight continuing right now between us and the state and the federal government over that. The state's been trying to grab that money before it gets to us, kind of like they did with the other stimulus money that Monroe got because they're over 500,000, but we didn't because we're under, and it went through the state and they kept it. So one of the things the state's talking about doing, and Steve, you can confirm this or not, but what I'm hearing is that The state's not happy that we worked that deal out with the federal government to get that directly, and that if we get 5 million from the feds, they're looking at decreasing 5 million in Medicaid that they give to us. So really, that's a wash, unfortunately. Also, in this last budget, as you remember, in 2018, the state did away with AIM funding. They brought it back, but they took it out of our local sales tax. So yes, indeed, our towns and villages are getting local sales tax to the tune of $2 million that came out, and that will again happen this year. Also in the 2020 budget, the state created a fund for distressed hospitals and nursing homes, but again, are charging the local county sales tax dollars for that fund. So that's going to cost us an additional a little over $2 million. So before we even start, we've got $4 million coming out of our already depleted sales tax dollars on top of whatever the state decides to do with us. So yeah, this is, like I said, this is not something anybody wants to do, but it's one of the few arrows in our quiver, for lack of a better term, that we have that we can act on immediately because it's already and authorized by the state to do this. You know, and then I think for the 2021 budget, everything is on the table as far as property taxes. You know, I know there's been talk of going that route, but that would not help us this year immediately where this will. And obviously our fund balance, that's going to be, you know, totally in play. But again, trying to plug holes this year and then, you know, looking at next year. So anyway, again, yeah, my last thing I want to do is implement something like this, but you know, like Bertus said, I don't think we have a whole lot of choice in this, unfortunately.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other comments, questions?
Chairman.
Yes, Leader May.
Thank you. So I have, I think, comment and a couple of questions or requests, if you will. First of all, you know, we're looking at an illustration of possible revenue scenarios, and we're looking at a very, very high level presentation of cuts by budget category, sort of rolled up across county government to, you know, see where we stand. And I'll be the first to acknowledge there had to be a ton of work that went into that picture. Just a minute ago, we talked about, you know, making an allowance for a full and robust budget process this fall, even moving it to sort out everything that we need to do, 15, 16 days if you count them all. I would personally like to understand the financial picture better than I do now. It would be nice to see, you know, either a few different balance sheet type scenarios where we can see where and how functional areas are being impacted and or how they can be helped with this decision, which functional areas are being impacted and how. I mean, for that matter, I guess I'd like to know, you know, with respect to the COVID process, which I think the county's done a great job with, you know, how has that impacted just our budgets in general? I mean, you know, clearly we're paying for things that we need to do and that are our responsibility. And obviously budgets have been impacted to do so. I'd like to understand that a little bit better as well. I'd also like just a quick question for Steve, and that is, So you mentioned, and I was going to ask as well, Jim, thank you for asking about the fund balance, its status, and where we think we're going to finish up for 2019, at least in the capper. Where in this high level projection is any fund balance use portrayed, or isn't it?
It isn't. There's no, at this point in
No
time,
use of fund balance.
there's no factor of fund balance. I mean, fund balance is a last resort. Fund balance will be what's used at the end of the day to plug whatever hole remains after all the other tools in our toolbox are employed. So that's usually the balancer.
Usually. So, Steve, is it possible to get a better, in a reasonable time frame, a slightly better picture across the functional areas of county government, what the financial picture looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that that's going to be all that helpful, Legislator May. I mean, the forecast and that base we started with, which is that $12 million surplus, you know, everything's on lockdown right now. So from a spending perspective, aside from some program areas in the children and family arena, which are putting negative pressure on our budget this year, things are below budget. So, you know, we're at a hiring freeze, so we're projecting almost, you know, $10 million in salary and wage savings. You know, we got another almost $10 million on the remaining non-salary accounts. So from a functional perspective, you know, the departments are kind of in a holding pattern where they can be, but still conducting business, and they have the resources to do that. So, you know, from a COVID perspective, you know, we're somewhere between $4 and $5 million in terms of responding to that. You know, we've had the ability with grant dollars to spend that money, and we've already submitted our initial application to FEMA and are working with them to start the reimbursement process. So, you know, that has not been foisted upon departments. We're running that through a grant, and we'll, you know, balance that grant out with FEMA reimbursement, and then whatever FEMA doesn't reimburse, then we'll have to determine, you know, where that comes from. So we're not burdening departments with, you know, FEMA expenses. That's been brought offline. So, you know, that $12 million in projected overall general fund surplus, there's really not a ton of moving pieces other than the austerity you see here, as well as 2 or 3 program accounts in children and family that are putting negative pressure on the budget. Everything else is certainly below budget based on the tightening we've done in the austerity realm from a personnel and non-personnel perspective.
So no areas are impacted more than others with respect to either austerity or, obviously, you know, state income reimbursement, stuff like that is going to be a problem in the obvious spots.
Right. So, Brian, what we tried to do is you know, we tried to allocate the austerity amounts based on, you know, each department's share of the overall budget. For example, you know, supplies and materials, you know, we cut a little, not cut, but we froze a little over $1 million, and that was allocated mostly based on, you know, what a particular department's budget for supplies and materials is compared to the overall budget of the county in supplies and materials. And then we allocated that based on that methodology and tried to spread it as evenly as we could. You know, some of the areas that we had that we couldn't do that with were the contractual expenses, where, you know, some departments really don't have, you know, significant contract dollars. So we focused those freezes in some of the bigger human services departments where they have significant contract dollars. But other than that, we really tried to apply these austerity measures, and obviously the hiring freeze is universal across the county. The areas that we're beefing up staff where we need to and allowing expenses to be made is obviously in the response to the pandemic, emergency management, the health department, in those areas where we're obviously putting the resources and adding resources where needed and required. So other than that area, the rest of the parts of the county are being squeezed and being put into austerity to allow for these savings to accrue.
Other questions, other comments?
Steve, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So, the 25 million that is baked into the your baseline projection, if I did the math right, it's about 3% budget cut. Is that a fair statement?
30% of the overall general fund budget?
Yeah, 3% of the general fund budget.
Yeah, I mean, the general fund budget's about $1 billion.
Okay.
So,
yeah, okay.
Yep.
So I just want to ask this question. I'm sure you're living with this and working on it every day, but I'd feel more comfortable hearing it from you. You got to have other cuts in your pocket that you're looking at this point.
Yeah, I mean, as well as all the legislators on this call, that our biggest expenses outside of the mandate world are people.
Right.
So,
but if it rains and if it starts, the tornado kicks up, I would just feel, not that I want to go down this road, but that you guys are at least looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, we're waiting, like I mentioned earlier, Jim, we're waiting on the results of the retirement incentive.
Right.
That's going to play a big role in this picture.
Yeah.
And once we know the numbers and we know what the backfill position is going to be, and we have an overall savings for the remainder of this year, as well as a projection into next year, that'll be placed into this analysis. And if we get to the point where, all of these pieces come together and hopefully there's going to be more clarity as we move through the year, if we need to go to the involuntary separation route, unfortunately, that may be the route we go.
Right.
Again, that's an area of our biggest expense is salaries and fringe benefits.
Okay. All right. And so, Mr. Chairman, I think we're headed towards a vote on this resolution. And I just, my only comment would be, I view this imposition of sales tax on residential energy, in my opinion, is a regressive tax, and it's bad timing. I know of constituents in my district who lost their job, who have a shop, a retail shop, or a karate studio or whatever that they're going to lose, and it's tough for me to look them in the face and say, we have to raise your taxes on your residential energy bill, and I'm willing to do that if it was temporary. I'm not willing to do it on a permanent basis. I understand the need, like I said, to look at the revenue piece of this problem, and that it's got to be part of the solution. But I'm not comfortable voting for this as a permanent solution when clearly it's going to be a temporary problem. It might be a temporary problem for a number of years, but I'm not willing to vote for this on a permanent basis. No, I'll just leave it at that, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Legislator Rowley. Other questions, comments on 7B? Anything? All right, then. I think we're ready for a vote. If I have a motion. I have a motion for 7B.
I'll move it.
Mr. Ryan is the first. Is there a second?
A second.
I think I heard Mrs. Irvin is a second. Vernon, sorry.
That's Vern. That's Vern.
Yes, thank you. Could we call the roll, please?
Legislators Burtis,
Yes.
May,
Abstain.
Irvin,
Yes.
Rowley,
No.
Ryan,
Yes.
Williams, Williams,
More time.
Yes.
4 ayes, 1 abstention, 1 no.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying yes.
Oh, is that you, Vernon? Okay, yes, we have you as a yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Thank you. There are other comments? All right, sorry. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Anything else? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ryan. There's a first. Or second.
Second.
Mrs. Irvin, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We get everybody?
Aye.
That's good, Vern. All right, then, I believe, if that's okay, Debbie, yes? Yes, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.